Ruthless husband gave me some unique punishment for my cheating behavior. When I created my Reddit account, I never thought the day would come when I would sit down in front of my computer and write about myself. I used to read the life experiences of other people and open my mouth at the things they wrote. Some of the stories I read were funny and some were emotional. The funny thing is that I now have a life experience to share, but mine is far from funny. Please bear with me if this ends up being too long. My emotions are getting the best of me, and this is my way of controlling myself. I am not here to talk about how innocent the first am. I am far from innocent and I caused most of what happened to me, but it is what it is. I just realized that I am married to a very wicked man. He is ruthless and does not have a forgiving spirit. I did not know that the man I have been living with is so wicked. How could anyone treat their own wife with so much hatred? Yes, I cheated on him and I have been cheating on him for a very long time. I know that writing this on Reddit will bring me a lot of judgment and curses, but I am ready for them. A lot of people will tell me how stupid and heartless I am. I know this because I used to read the comments under the posts of other people. Now that I am the one in the position to be judged, I understand it is not that easy. My husband, M43, and I, F33, have been married for 10 years now. I never planned on getting married at 23, but my life did not go as planned, so I had to settle down. I met my husband when I was 20 years old. I was already in college back then, and I had a lot of friends. I come from a family of 5. I have an older brother and a stepsister. My father had gotten another woman pregnant while he was still married to my mom, so I have a little sister. The old man was poor, but he could not control himself, so he brought in a liability. I don't mean my little sister is a liability, but the consequences around her birth were. My father could not even pay for our dinner back then. He worked at his friend's car wash business and barely earned money. My mother was and still is the sole provider of the family. She was a high school teacher but took many side jobs to sustain the family. We were barely managing to survive, so when my father brought in another child, life became difficult. I only got into college because my older brother made sure I did. I made some friends in college and was able to blend in. College was like my escape from home because my parents had a screaming match every evening. It was either about money or something very unnecessary. I met my husband one day in college when he came to fix something in our college. He's a technician and was the college's usual choice when they wanted something fixed. To be honest, I did not look at my husband twice the first day I saw him. He was not someone that interested me. I didn't even notice him until one of my friends told me he had been staring at me. It was so funny that I laughed out loud that day. I thought my friends were crazy because I knew I had no interest in being with a technician. I had no business with him. My husband walked up to me one day and told me he liked me. I was with my friends that day and it took everything in me not to laugh in his face. I do not consider myself hot or sexy, but I was confident enough to know I did not find my husband attractive in any way. I told him I had a boyfriend and left him standing in the hallway. When I got home that day, I narrated everything to my mother and she laughed at the situation too. I did not tell her he was a technician. I just told her a guy who had to be a dozen years older than me asked me out. At 20 years old, I already dated more than 2 guys. I was far from being a virgin at that age, but I was not a slut. I still had some self-respect left in me. My husband did not approach me after that day and we lost all contact because he stopped coming to our college for repairs. I didn't notice his absence and went back to living my life. The next time I met him was almost 6 months later. I was in my second year of college and followed my brother to get some tools for the bike he bought. I did not feel the need to ask my brother how he got a bike because I assumed he had enough money for it. He was sponsoring me to college, so I imagined he had enough for himself. I met my husband at the tool shop that day. He was also getting some tools. My brother greeted him like they had known each other for years. They did not. Men just feel the need to give a bro hug to a total stranger because they were looking for the same set of tools. To be honest, I was embarrassed to see him there because of how I turned him down before. He smiled at me and asked how I was and I asked him why he stopped coming to our college. He told me he got busy and was starting his own mechanic shop. That was why he was at the store to get some tools. We spoke for a while before I left with my brother. I ran into him many times after that, and so we exchanged phone numbers. We started as friends, and he clearly told me he wanted more, but I was not ready for a relationship with him. I got the shock of my life when my brother told me he could no longer fund me to college. I cried myself to sleep that day. My brother told me he ran out of money, but the truth was that he had been stealing his boss's money. Yes, my brother had been stealing from his boss. His boss did not notice until my brother got the bike. He got suspicious because he knew how much my brother received as a salary, and that was how he got caught. We were in debt and had no money to survive. I did not tell my husband what was going on in my family because I was too ashamed. We were just friends back then, but my husband asked me out some weeks after that. I don't want to be one to lie, so I will tell the truth. I started dating my husband because I was broke. He earned enough to feed himself and buy me gifts. I am not ashamed to say the truth because I had no choice. My family was in debt and I was on the verge of dropping out of college. I was desperate for survival, so I stuck to the only saving grace I had. I finally told him about my college fees, and he asked me to give him time. Weeks later, he gave me the money for my college fees. I was so grateful for that, and I got a side job at a restaurant so I could make some money. I got married to my husband while I was still in college. He proposed to me 1 year later, and I said yes. He was the support system in my life, and I could not say no after everything he did for me. My parents also convinced me to get married to him and not lose the opportunity. I know some people will come to the comments and ask me why I did not just get married to a wealthy millionaire if I was broke. This is real life, not Hollywood. Marrying a rich man in the real world is not easy. You don't just run into a rich man who falls in love with you and marries you instantly. I went with the safest option, and that was my husband. He told me he was ready to settle down, and I had no problem with settling down too. I don't have Kim Kardashian's looks, so the chances of me running Kanye West were slim. After we got married, I was able to finish college 2 years later. My husband was not the extra romantic type. He did buy me flowers and take me on romantic dates. He never did any of those things before we got married, so I didn't really expect any of it. I found it hard to get a job even with my college degree, so I started working at the restaurant I used to work in before full-time. I did not love my husband, but I cared for him. Our marriage was just a marriage. We were not head over heels for each other. He cared and provided for me, and I did the same. I gave birth to my first child 5 years ago, a baby girl. I stopped working during that time because my husband insisted we did exclusive breastfeeding. It was exhausting to breastfeed and work at the same time, so I became a housewife. Even after my daughter was old enough to go to the nursery, I did not resume working. It was my decision because I found the restaurant very exhausting. My husband did not have a problem with it at all. He even sent some money to my family once in a while. We lived in a rented apartment, but we fed very well. It was a huge upgrade from the life I had before I married him. I got my first job as a teacher at an elementary school, and I was happy to finally leave the house. I found the job easier than the one at the restaurant. The school is where my cheating story began. I cannot mention the name of the school for personal reasons, so please bear with me. I had a crush on one of the teachers in the school. I can already tell how much backlash this will get. Yes, I had a crush on a fellow colleague at work even though I was married. My husband is 10 years older than me. He doesn't like most of the things I like. I still feel young and I don't want to live a boring life. It was my choice, but I got married at a very young age. I still had a lot about life I had not seen, so when my colleague asked me out, I accepted. He knew I was married, but he still asked me out anyway. We dated privately because I did not want anyone at school to find out what was going on. I know I should not have cheated on my husband, but I did. I wanted to feel the excitement my marriage lacked. It had nothing to do with how my husband treated me. It was just a decision I made. I know. I am a loose woman, but what could I do? I could not resist the temptation. I dated my colleague for months before we broke up. There was no particular reason for it. We just decided to end things. I did not end my cheating there. I met someone else and we started dating. In the beginning, I felt very ashamed of myself, but as time went on, I couldn't care less. My husband did not seem to notice any of it, so I continued. The money I earned from elementary school was not much, but it was still money I could use for important things. My husband is the sole provider of the house, and I did not use my money for anything. It is not something I am ashamed of because I believe that a man should be the one providing for the family. I promised myself not to end up like my mother, who slaved herself away just to help my father, and he ended up cheating on her. I saved all the money I earned in my bank account. I did not really know what I was saving for, but I knew I wanted to start buying bags and things I could not afford before. I had been saving for 4 years and never touched the money unless my family needed help or I wanted to get myself something new. It might seem unbelievable, but it is the truth. My husband provided for the house from the little he earned. He did not complain, and I did not think he should have a reason to complain. Maybe I am too heartless in my judgment, but that is as a result of the trauma I saw my mother go through. In a way, I do feel like I am like my father, who betrayed my mother even when she fed him. The only difference is that I did not get pregnant and bring the child to my husband's house. Did I feel guilty? Yes, a part of me did feel guilty, but that was until my husband decided to be wicked. I thought I was not going to get caught, but somehow, my husband found out I was cheating. I did not have texts or phone calls that could have implied I was cheating, but he still found out. I noticed some changes in the way my husband related with me for weeks. He stopped eating the food I prepared and preferred to eat out. 1 week ago, my husband came home early and told me he needed to use my phone to call someone since they were not picking up his calls. I found it weird because my husband never used my phone before, but I unlocked it and gave it to him. I had no reason to worry because I did not have any chats or calls that suggested I was cheating. I did not even save my partner's number in my phone. I did not stand there and wait for him to use it because I did not want to act suspicious. I went to the kitchen and pretended I was busy making a salad. He called me when he was done and gave me back my phone. I forgot all about that encounter because there was nothing suspicious, but something happened 3 days ago. I got a debit alert of over $10,000. That's all the money I had been saving for 4 years. I thought I was seeing stars at first, but it was true. All my money was wiped except for the remaining $200. I thought I was running crazy and I could barely breathe. That was practically my life savings. I ran to my bank to ask what happened. They told me there was no suspicious activity and that it was just a withdrawal. I thought I had been scammed, but the truth was that my husband was the one who made the withdrawal from my bank. He took my card PIN from my phone. I can't be the only one who saves my passwords in my phone in case I forget, right? Well, it cost me a lot. I wanted to scream and scratch anything because I could not understand what happened. Everything I worked for was gone. When my husband came back that day, I did not waste time in accusing him of stealing from me. He laughed in my face and told me that was what I got for cheating on him. He found out I was cheating from a friend of his who worked at my partner's place of work. I used to visit my partner at his place of work because I thought it was safer there. He was aware for a long time but kept it a secret so he could hatch his plan and pay me back. He accused me of using him to provide for my family and feed myself while I cheated and saved my money. If you are wondering how he knew about the money I saved, let me tell you how he knew. He knew I had to be saving because I was not providing for the house. My husband knew how much I earned from my job, so he took revenge on me. He left the house after laughing in my face and has not returned since then. I might be a cheat, but my husband is heartless. He stole from me. I saved that money for 4 good years. That's all I have, yet he took it as compensation for me cheating. I am so angry and worried, and I don't know what to do. I don't even know if my marriage is over. Update. I can't believe that it's already been 2 months since I made this post. Many of you cussed the life out of me in the comments, lol. I have been tagged as the cheating opportunist of the century. A lot of people showed their disgust for me, but there were also people that could relate to my desperation. I'm happy to know I am not alone. Nobody is perfect, and I am far from being perfect. I cheated and I regret it, but I don't regret taking the safest option and marrying the man I believed could provide for me. I needed to survive. My marriage could not survive because honestly, I could not see my husband the same way. He stole from me and I cheated on him. We were broken beyond repair. I was left with $200 to survive. I was broke. My husband served me divorce papers 3 weeks later and gave me a month to vacate the apartment. My parents hated me for ruining the marriage that brought them money, so they were not ready to accept another liability. I had to beg a colleague to crash at her place till I received my salary for the month. My child spent the weekend at my place and spent the whole week with her father because I cannot afford to provide for both of us yet. I am no longer with my partner and I am single and undergoing divorce. When you think of a miserable broke woman, think of me. LOL. I'm still trying to get myself back together. It's a process, but I'll get there. Maybe I needed to part with my husband to find my own way in life without taking shortcuts. Thank you to everyone that has taken the time to read my story and speak on it. I'm glad I shared my story with Reddit.